Logistics Corps, and I'm a chef by trade. Today we're going to do this short video to show you some ideas of what you can do with your Christmas Day leftovers. So first of all, we've got 3 meals that we're going to cook for you today. I've got bobble and sweet croquettes with a lovely whole grain mustard dip. And then we've got some creamy, cheesy tagliatelle with leftover pigs and blankets. I can't wait for that, it's going to be delicious. And then my third one is going to be roast potatoes, salt and pepper. Like you get your salt and pepper chips from a Chinese restaurant, we're doing it with roast potatoes today instead. So let's crack on then with the tagliatelle. So because it is leftovers, I have got my leftover spaghetti, tagliatelle, pasta, whatever you want to use, that maybe I had on Christmas Eve. Because it's cheap, it's easy, and you can put anything into it. So that's already pre-cooked. Don't forget today is all about leftovers, so everything will be pre-cooked. All we're doing is building it, heating it up, and making it taste yummy. But I've also got my pigs and blankets then, all cut up nice and small. I've then got a little bit of leftover cheese board. Why you have leftover cheese boards, I do not know. Maybe don't throw it on the floor. But there's always got a little novel of cheese left. And people always throw away the small bit. Who wants this bit of cheese? Not me. They either eat it, give it to the dog, or they put it in a bin. Don't do that. You can also freeze cheese. Because if you don't use the cheese now, you can freeze it and use it another time. Especially for the small bits, you can grate it up, put it into a pasta. Same with all the meats that you can have as well. Freeze everything you can, as long as it's safe and you reheat it correctly. Freeze everything. Oh my goodness. So I've also got some double cream left over because it wasn't all used on the Christmas pudding, the Christmas cake, the trifle, and any other sweet treats that we've had this Christmas. So I've got my frying pan. I'm just going to put one to the heat now. I'm going to pop it over here. I'm going to do a fairly medium heat of maybe 2 or 3. What I'm also going to do is slice up an onion. Use whatever kind of onion you want. I'm using a red one just because I like the contrasting colour. If you don't want to put onion into it, again, don't put onion into it. This is all about leftovers. If you want to throw some vegetables into it, do so. If you want to throw parsnips and mashed potatoes into it, and Brussels sprouts, you fill your boots. It's not my cup of tea though, soldier, not for me. So what I'm going to do is just peel this onion, nice and simple. Take all the rubbish off my chopping board. The chopping board is for chopping, not for storing. I'm going to slice that in half. Then we're really lucky that Mother Nature has given us lines down our onions, okay? We're going to use that to slice down. Nice and easy slice. If you want to put some garlic in here as well, you can. If you've got any stolen any rosemary from the churchyard down the road, put some of that in also. Anything you want to put in to help flavour it, do so. All I'm going to use today is a little bit of dried herbs that I've got out of the food parcel. Easy peasy. Next thing I'm going to do then, my pan is now heating nicely. I'm going to pop in a little bit of butter. You haven't got to use butter, you can use cooking oil. You can use whatever you want to use. So a little bit of butter then is in there nicely melting, nice and slowly. While that's coming to heat, I'm going to pop in the onions. Nice and simple. Now we don't want any colour in the onions, so we're going to cook it nice and slowly. Not so much saute, more like blanching them in the butter to get all those lovely flavours. Also what we're going to do is put in our dry herbs, because it's going to rehydrate these dry herbs and start to release all the flavours into the mix. Just because it's leftovers, it doesn't need to taste like leftovers. So let's melt this butter in with the onions. I'm using today oregano, but like I said, you can use any kind of green herbs that you want to use. Keep it legal though, guys. So any kind of green herbs, I pop that in. Also, because I'm a lazy bugger, I might be hungover, it's Boxing Day, I'm going to use bought-in garlic puree. What are you going to do? Tell the police? I'm using it. I'll pop that in as well. So the more that cooks off, I'm going to turn it up a little bit. I would then normally, if I hadn't already prepped because I'm on video, I'd now be going off and cutting up my pigs in blankets or any other meat that I want to put into this pasta dish. So it could be the turkey, the beef, the ham. You can keep it a vegetarian one. Of course, if you're celiac, if you're gluten, you'd use the appropriate substitutes. Okay, I'm not, so I'm going to do all meat, dairy, gluten, and I'm having it all. So my pigs and blankets are all cut up nicely. In my bowl here, I try not to spill this lot on the floor, and I'm going to put them straight into the heat. Again, any fat that's come off these sausages and this bacon, just going to start to melt now and also start to flavour the pan. So when we add the cream, it's It's going to lift all these flavours and it's going to taste delicious. So here we go then with the cut up pigs and blankets, or any other meat that you've chosen to use. And we're just going to mix that through, nice and warm, melting off all the fat, rendering it off. Now, this is your food. These are your leftovers. You might not have any leftovers. You might only have 2 pigs and blankets, if that. Now try and get it before the dog gets it. Put it in the fridge. Definitely keep any of the scraps that you've got, because you will need them and you can make a meal out of it. This is where you'll be saving your money. Okay? Always keep the leftovers, always try to make another meal out of it. So now that's rendered off nicely. I'm not going to add any salt yet, because all the salt that comes out of the bacon, or if you've had a smoked gammon, imagine the salt that's going to come out of that already. I don't want to over salt the dish. So next thing I'm going to add then is my cooked pasta. So again, it hasn't got to be tagliatelle, it can be any pasta that you want it to be. So I'm just going to pop that in now. And help that pasta soak in all the flavours by mixing it through. Again, we want it to be hot, so I'm letting it heat up. The next thing I'm going to do is get the double cream. Use double cream rather than single cream, so it does stick up a little bit nicer. And don't get it confused with the brandy cream, because it might not taste as good. And definitely don't put squidgy cream in it, that's not what we want. So a nice glug then of double cream. Oh, I've got that on my face. I understand that you still might be using that today for your mince pies and your Christmas puddings, but you can afford a splash of this double cream to go into this pasta dish. So we're going to mix that through, make sure all the pasta is covered, all the vegetables, all the pigs and blanket, and that cream is now going to start to reduce and it's going to start to thicken up. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put in some of this grated cheese that I've done already. So I've got 2 different sorts of cheese in here. I think I've got a cranberry cheese in there and a chive cheese that was left over from our cheese board. If you want to put Stilton going through this, if you want to put brie, any cheese you want to put into it, you can. It's not a specific dish, okay? We can do it Sinatra, we can do it my way. So we can do it any way you want to do it. So here we have my 2 sorts of grated cheese. I'm just going to pop a handful in here. Again, the salt that will be in this cheese, I'm still quite reluctant to put much salt in this at all. I will, however, put some pepper into it. Now again, like I said, don't forget, at this point, this is your dish. If you wanted to throw in carrots for a little bit of an extra healthy kick, you can do, of course. Your Brussels sprouts, any other meat, you can just throw it in. A Brussels sprout is just a small cabbage. If you like cabbage, you like Brussels sprouts. As long as you haven't had them on the boil since October, they'll be delicious. So that cheese now is really thickening up this sauce. And this, I would say, is done. Now, in some of the other videos that we've made, we did make some fresh garlic bread. And if you've been lucky enough to see that video, and also see this one, you'll know how we've made it. Alternatively, lovely bit of old-fashioned bread and butter, slap it in, yoink. That will definitely fill you up and keep you warm. Let's get this served. Nice clean bowl, obviously warm from the hot plate, on the bottom of the oven. Get that in nicely. Ooh. Pop that there. Bit more cheese. Why not? It is Christmas. And there you go. There is your pigs and blankets, creamy, cheesy tagliatelle.